What's up, guys? Here is 4 very specific things for you to do if you're a gym owner that's doing below $25,000 a month. So I created this book called The 4 Stages of Fitness Business, and stage 1 is anywhere from 0 to 25K. And the typical people that are in that range from 0 to 25K, they're having a lot of challenges. There's burnout that's setting in, and they're never making the amount of money that they want to make. And there was always like this stretch to try to get to that next level, that's stage 2, which is 20K, and above. And some gym owners think it's, what they need to do from a programming standpoint. Some gym owners think they need to be in a better location or anything like that. But the reality is there's 4 specific things to do to get you to scale past $25,000, and I'm going to tell them to you today on this video. The first one is creating 1 to 3 predictable lead generation sources, right? And so if you think about it, that business growth is all about generating a lead, converting that lead into a paying customer, and then keeping that customer for as long as possible. Well, that process is great, but that process does not start without a lead being generated. And so that's the first thing that people need to do, is understand and win the game of lead generation. And the problem is most people have no idea how to play that game. Like, you got into this as a trainer, you have no idea, you know how to train people, you have no idea how to market a gym or market a business. And so it typically does not come, a marketing knowledge does not come factory installed when you sign the lease of a gym. So this is stuff that you have to learn. But understand, if we do not have predictable lead generation sources, we will not have a predictable flow of new customers. And it is guaranteed that you will lose customers. It is not guaranteed that you will get new ones. And so that's kind of what you got to think about. You got to solve that marketing, that lead generation bucket first. And ideally what we want to do is create a predictable flow. And what do I mean by predictable? Well, predictable is like, I don't have to do something for that to happen. And so a predictable lead generation source would be, an example would be a website that is good enough to be able to generate a certain number of leads in a given period of weeks or months. So if you have a business, if you have a website that generates 30 leads a month, you can count on that website generating 1 lead a day, 1 person raising their hand, and then you can possibly count on a certain percentage of the people becoming customers. That is a predictable lead generation source. What's not a predictable lead generation source is you waking up, you picking up the phone and you calling, 100 people to hopefully come in as a customer. Now, that doesn't mean you don't do that, as you should. But what we want to do is to create peace of mind, to be able to have confidence and clarity that you can run your business and know that, hey, I can take a weekend off, or I can go on vacation for a few days, and there's still going to be leads coming into my business. So creating a predictable lead generation source. I gave you one of them was a website. Another one could be paid ads. You could even do paid print marketing, like newspapers or magazines. Technically, if you put an ad in a newspaper or magazine, and that ad is in the paper every month, and it's generating leads, that is a predictable lead generation source. So yes, doing marketing is important, and hitting the phones and doing sales is important. But the first one is creating these predictable lead generation sources, so there's always this inflow of new potential leads coming into your business. That's number 1. Number 2 is we got to get our business below a 5% attrition rate. Now, very quickly, here's how you get this number. The way you get this number is you take the number of clients that you lost in a given month, and then you divide it by the total number of clients that you have. So if you lose 5 clients in a month, you would divide that by however many clients you got. Let's say it's 100, right? So 5 divided by 100, and that would be a 5% attrition rate, right? We do not want to be much higher than that. Now, if you're doing large group, it could skew a little bit higher, but if you're doing one-on-one, small group, like the majority of clients that follow me do, we want to try and be below that 5% number. Now, here's why. If we're creeping up to 6% and 7% and 8%, it starts getting really, really hard to outmarket that kind of attrition. So now I have to spend all my time and all my energy generating leads and making sales and getting on the phone and doing all these things, and I'm going to overextend myself on a sales and marketing front when all I really need to do is pay a little bit closer attention to the product that I was delivering. And it's kind of like the restaurant. It's like a restaurant, if they have really, really bad food and the owner doesn't pay attention to the quality of the food, and he spends all his time getting new people to come into the restaurant, but every time someone tries the restaurant once, they never come back, that's not going to be a recipe for winning at that restaurant. So you have to understand is that the most important piece of your business is protecting your attrition rate. And what we like to see is 5% or below. I'd like to see it closer to 4% to 3%, even better. But it will be very, very, very difficult for you to scale past $25,000 if you have above a 5%. If you have a business that's doing above 5% attrition. So that's the second thing. You've got to really pay attention. What is that? What do we need to do that? Well, you got to focus on putting the right people out on the floor. You got to make sure that your staff members are really good and they're engaged and they're happy and they're excited about being there and they're knowledgeable. If you have staff members that are, box checkers and they're showing up late and they're not happy with their job, that's going to show in terms of the customer experience. So, a lot of times people talk about attrition and improving attrition through tracking attendance and doing all these other things. And I think that stuff is important. I think it's all well and good that you do that. But the number one driver of your attrition rate will be the quality of the product. And the quality of the product is driven by the people that deliver that product. So it's like there's nothing more important than that. So if you have an attrition issue and you're at 9%, you're at 8%, there's nothing more important for you to fix than that. And it'll be very, very difficult for you to scale past 25K if you have above 5% attrition rate. Number 3, set a goal for every one of your sessions to make an average of $200 per hour. Now, why this 200 magic number, right? Well, let's just say that you have 30 sessions on the calendar, okay? If you have 30 sessions on the calendar, you could do every session, okay? You don't have to have a staff of 5 to do 30 sessions a week. So you could have 30 sessions on the calendar. If you are generating $200 per hour, it's actually 31, but you are right at $25,000 in 30 sessions. You can do that yourself. How many do we need to do if we're getting $100 an hour? Well, you guessed it, 50. So if you have a business that's generating $100 per hour on average, and you want to make $25,000, there needs to be 50 sessions on the calendar. Are you going to do 50 sessions yourself? Well, you can, and you'll burn yourself out very, very quickly. But now, if I have 50 sessions on the calendar, what do I have to do? I have to have payroll. And now I have to pay trainers to be able to do all that work. And now my margins are going to continue to go down and down and down and down. When we have this mindset around this $200 mark, that drives us to how much money we need to charge, right? And so if you're doing small group training and you want to make $200 an hour, well, you got to charge $50. All right. If you're doing 6 people, you can charge a little less than $50, right? And maybe maybe you have to look at your area and what your income level is, and that can cater. But all of it should equal around this average of 200. Remember, it's an average of 200. So some sessions might make $400. Some sessions you might make $150. But on average, across the board, if all of your sessions are equal to around $200, you're going to very, very easily scale past 25K. And I don't know if, I necessarily don't recommend this, but you can scale past 25K with you doing every session if you're at that magic $200 mark. So the overarching theme is make sure that your memberships are high enough to be able to equate to a $200 per hour session. And number 4 is to be able to convert 10 to 20% of the leads that you get to new members. And this is just going to tell you what's happening in the sales process. If you're doing way better than this, that means you're doing great. If you're doing way worse than this, then that means that we have to look at, the areas of your sales process and see what's up. But understanding and tracking this metric allows you to tell you if things are on or off. So let's just say you have a really poor conversion. Let's say you're only converting like 1% of your leads, to new members. Well, there's two places to look, and you can break down sales into these two things. There's setting and there's closing. Right? So a lead comes in, you want to set an appointment, whether that's to come in for a consultation, whether that's to come in for a free trial, right? That's the first piece of the sales process. And then the second piece is the conversion, right? That they sit down with a consultation, you sit down with them knee to knee, and then you sell them a membership. Well, those are two different processes. And if you're doing under 25K, it's very likely that you're doing both of those processes. But you tracking it, it gets you to look at and see which one of those things is the holdup. Where are you falling short? Are you falling short on the phone call? Are you falling short when you deliver the price? Are you getting a little clammy with them when you're saying how much the cost is for the membership, right? So tracking this number of 10 to 20% allows you to look at the sales process and see, what am I doing wrong? What do I need to fix? Where do I need to improve? And then how can I actually enhance these numbers to be able to get more clients from less leads? Because the lower the conversion rate, the more leads you actually need. The more leads you need, the more money you're going to actually spend on marketing. So if we can just take that conversion rate and improve that conversion rate, we're going to be able to scale past 25K a whole lot faster. Okay, so let's quick review, right? So one, we need 1 to 3 predictable lead generators. We need that predictable lead generation machine. Nothing happens if a lead is not generated. Number 2 is we got to make sure we're below a 5% attrition rate. If we're losing people out the gate, it's going to be really hard to scale past 25K. Number 3 is we want to set a goal to make $200 on average per hour. And that's going to tell us how much money we need to charge to be able to hit that number. And the final thing is we want to make sure we're converting 10 to 20% of the leads to new members, and that's going to tell us what's going on with our sales process. So start tracking this stuff. Start tracking these numbers. Are you getting these predictable lead generations? Are you getting these conversion rates? But this is where growth happens. And when you start to put these numbers and track in place, we're going to start ringing the register and getting past that 25K mark. Now, what happens when we get past 25K? Well, in the beginning, when you're doing under 25K, everything lives and dies with you, right? Nothing happens in the business without you. And when you start getting into the bigger numbers of 25K, 35K, 50K, we start to be able to bring on some people to help us. We can bring on a trainer, we can bring on a head trainer, we can bring on someone to help with sales. And now we have a business that's not fully dependent on us to run. And there can be some breathing room and a sigh of relief that the business is going to be able to keep going without us. And I have worked with so many gyms where they got so burned out because they did everything themselves and they never made it past that 25K mark because it just got burned out before it actually happened. And so you getting past that number and get past that mark is going to give you the resources and the finances to be able to bring on some help, because this game ain't easy. You're going to need some help along the way, and you have to be able to have the finances and the money to be able to do it. And step 1 is getting past that kind of magic 25K mark. And today I just gave you 4 ways to do it. So go home, take action, track these numbers, and I'll see you inside.